So you have to see what it is that the patient needs and wants and how I can do that for them with many things in mind, like budget, like how many appointments, how many visits, how much time is it going to take. So it's a lot of, back and forth. But honestly, it just comes down to listening to someone, right? And seeing where they're coming from and what I can do to help.
From the cubicle to the lab, the studio to the war room, climbing the corporate ladder, or joining a scrappy startup, experience a day in the life of the jobs you want. This is the Experience a Dental podcast.
We interview professionals, entrepreneurs, and recent grads to inspire you to gain experience beyond the classroom and launch a career of your own.
We're your hosts, Krista Bowe
and Matt Poe.
Welcome to Experience a Dental's Not-acci-Dental series with dentist Dr. Alex Vasserman. In this Dental episode, we'll take a trip to the Upper East Side of New York City to live a day in the life of a dentist who owns his own practice, patient by patient.
Dr. Alex wakes up and is out the door by 7:45, 8 a.m. He walks across Central Park over to his office on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. To no surprise, Alex is a podcast lover and listens to the latest episodes on his walk over.
You said you listen to dental podcasts. How important is it to stay informed as much as possible, and what are other measures that you take to keep up with the times, I guess?
I can't imagine not staying on top because technology is changing so quick. We're not doing the same dentistry today as we were doing in the 90s. It's crazy, right? And then we're not going to be doing the same dentistry in 2022 as we're doing now. So that gap is becoming smaller and smaller. So if you're not on your new techniques, your technology, your development, you're going to be that old guy that's still doing the silver fillings, in that like decrepit office. And,
They still exist, right?
Oh, everywhere. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Sure. But it's, so continuing education is incredibly important. So crucial to my craft to know how to use the best, the latest.
So now it's 8:30 and Alex arrives to the office. Before he sees his first patient, he huddles up with the staff to go over the schedule for the day.
Can you go over who your staff is, what their positions are?
Yeah. Corey's our front desk manager. She's great. Anna's our hygienist. She's awesome. Okay. She's really talented. And then it's my assistant, Leslie, who's actually been with us for 3 months now. So yeah, that's it. It's a small little office. It's great environment. We play good music. So that's good.
Cool.
Awesome. What kind of music?
Up to the patient. So it's like the patient gets
cool. You
yeah.
give them the...
Yeah.
Cool.
Talk about that experience. Then.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I like that.
That's cool. And then what are the most common procedures that you do per day?
Wow. Restorative work, I would say, is my bread and butter. Fillings, crowns, which is, think of it a veneer on back teeth. There's a crown and a veneer. Think of a crown as a veneer that goes 360 degrees around the tooth. A veneer is something just goes on the outside to improve aesthetics and the structure of the outside.
Gotcha.
Right? So
that makes sense.
Crowns, veneers, composites are really my bread and butter.
The first patient arrives 9 a.m. sharp. This was booked last night after office hours.
So it was an emergency. She broke a tooth. We talked about restoring it with various materials in this situation. I think she's going to be doing a veneer.
So this was an emergency. Was it like a rush into the office and you didn't know they were coming, or like how does that work out?
Typically what we do is my cell phone is always available on the outgoing message and on the email.
Gotcha.
This patient called the office after hours. Mm-hmm. She broke the tooth at around 8 or 9 p.m. earlier that night. She called my cell phone. I have the ability to check my schedule remotely. I picked up the phone. I talked her through it. I said, let's open up the office first thing in the morning. And I was able to see her then.
Nice. So what if for this on the schedule that's already set in stone, you had a 9 a.m. appointment? What would you do in that?
Great question. I have more than one room. So while I'm taking care of one patient, sometimes it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to do one procedure. There's time where we're waiting for the anesthesia to set anyways. At that point, I can go next door and see what the emergency is. And that does happen. Or what we typically do, if it's someone that's understanding, we could give them the call in the morning and say, do you mind coming in 20 minutes later? We have an emergency. And that's where coffee cards are great.
Awesome.
But we can say,
go.
do you want to go get a cup of coffee, or do you want, and sometimes people are understanding and sometimes they're, we can multitask.
At 10 a.m., Alex has a 3-hour appointment scheduled with the patient that's in need of restoration work.
Her front teeth were her main concern.
Okay.
She's a chef at a really important high-end restaurant. Her teeth basically got not destroyed, but they got worn away by, she used to eat a lot of limes and lemons.
Okay.
So the front of her enamel, the front of her teeth were really dark and destroyed and kind of beaten up. So we were able to restore her front teeth, and she was super ecstatic.
So tangent here, you mentioned like acidic fruits, right?
Yeah.
What are other foods that like will do that to your teeth?
Great. Acid is typically the worst. So things like soda, are really destructive to teeth.
Sugar.
Soda. It's more, so sugar causes the bacteria to create the acid that breaks down the teeth.
Okay.
Sugar feeds the bacteria.
Gotcha.
So it's not the sugar, it's the bacteria that
Okay.
causes the acid to be produced by the bacteria, and that acid is what erodes your teeth. So acidic things tend to break down teeth.
Okay.
In her case, she would take a piece of lime and just like chew on it and hold it there, right? So in her situation, we were able to restore her teeth. There's other people that, they're habitual coffee drinkers. That typically won't erode your teeth. It will simply discolor it.
Okay.
Right.
Cool.
Smokers have discolored teeth. Right.
Yeah, I was going to ask specifically about coffee.
Yeah.
A lot of coffee.
Coffee is acidic, but I don't see the same type of destruction that I see from like acidic fruit like limes or grapefruits or soda specifically.
At 1, Alex has another restoration. This time it's an implant that he placed a while back.
She's cool. She's a rock climber, and she broke a tooth, and we placed the implant about 6 months ago, and now we restored it, so she got her tooth back.
So when she breaks a tooth, is this thing in like half and she doesn't have the other half, or is it like a chip, or?
Depends on how you break it. In her situation, it became really painful, and she didn't know why. So when she came in, I had to diagnose and say, you have a fracture in that tooth. That's why it hurts so bad.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have to take that out. Sometimes people break, especially the front teeth, in an accident. That's more of a fracture where it completely breaks off. The back teeth sometimes won't tell you that they're broken, except that they become incredibly painful.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
All right. So you have lunch at 2?
Yes.
2 p.m. is a late lunch.
2,
especially getting in at 8:30, right?
Yeah, what we do is we cater to the people who are at lunch going to the dentist. So that's why the 12 and the 1 slot is really popular slot, because people can run on their lunch break and see the dentist, get their cleaning or get their procedure done. That's why I take it at 2.
Gotcha.
So I
okay.
could
So very
sort of-
accommodating.
So that's
Yeah,
busy time.
exactly, right. And that's when I take my time to make my phone calls. I call patients to see how they're doing from previous procedures. Previous procedures from the day before, or I go over certain paperwork, etc. But I do try to take an hour, decompress, center myself.
I love the the personal touches that you're putting on all this. You're calling these patients afterwards.
All the
That's
time.
really cool.
All patients have my cell phone number. They can text me.
That's awesome. That's really important.
At 2:45, Alex shuts the lights off, puts on some rain sounds, and meditates for about 10 to 15 minutes. He likes to do this in the middle of the day to center himself so that he can tackle the rest of the day.
Okay. So it's 3 p.m. and you started an Invisalign case. I want to
Yes.
hear all about Invisalign.
Sure.
because when is it that you would recommend Invisalign versus braces, and what's the process?
Good question. So Invisalign is clear trays that are pre-programmed to move your teeth. Braces do the same thing as wires do. Braces are wires, so they do the same thing as Invisalign does, but you could see it. Invisalign is virtually invisible, right? So it's a different way to move teeth. New Yorkers don't want to walk around with wires on their front, with brackets on their front teeth. So the treatment of choice for adults is always going to be Invisalign. You could treat some adolescents and teenagers with Invisalign. The issue is that a lot of them are not going to be compliant. Why? Because they're going to be you have the ability to take off the trays.
Yeah.
So that's why for teenagers, the older method of brackets is still the preferred method. But Invisalign, majority of the cases, Invisalign can do the same thing as wires.
Okay. All right. Cool. Is Invisalign one brand, or is it just like a generic? There's a bunch of different Invisalign brands.
Great question. Invisalign basically they're at the forefront of clear braces technology, the clear trays. There's other companies that provide clear trays, but Invisalign has a lot of patents and proprietary plastics that other companies cannot use. So although there's other companies like Smile Direct Club, I don't know if you've seen commercials for that.
I have.
Or Clear Correct is another company. They basically are moving teeth using clear trays. However, Invisalign is at the forefront of that.
Gotcha.
So Invisalign not only 3D prints these trays that are pre-programmed to move your teeth, but they also provide the software for the dentist to choose where they're moving teeth. So Invisalign doesn't decide where to put your teeth. I do. But I use their software, and once the software is used to pre-program where your teeth go, then they 3D print the trays. Every tray is a little bit different, so it moves your teeth to a certain position that I, as a dentist or an orthodontist, predetermine.
Do they provide you with that software for free, or?
Cool. You have to take an initial course, and then they give you the software. Cool. You sign up, and then they want you to use their product, right? They want the software is the free part. Yeah. Cool.
Nice.
And then
learning something new about dentistry.
It's very cool.
That's so cool.
It's now 3:30 and another emergency appointment for Dr. Alex. This patient was experiencing severe pain on her tooth that had a crown placed on it.
Underneath a crown, patient developed a large cavity that got into their nerve, and they had a lot of pain, throbbing. The patient, I remember, was very concerned about money. They had insurance, but they weren't sure. So Corey called their insurance company, got the breakdown, was able to predetermine what they were going to cover, what they weren't going to cover. And it's funny, when someone's in pain, they still have a concern about cost, right?
Yeah.
So
some people just rough it.
Yeah, so I'm in tremendous amount of pain, but I want to know how much. But and when it comes to making sure that we could fit it into our patient's budget, we have to provide various treatments, right? We have to say, well, you could save this tooth, but it's going to cost you this amount of money, or we could take this tooth out, and it's going to be significantly cheaper, right? So those are the
So if someone can't afford things, you can make do.
Can always get them out of pain.
Gotcha.
No matter what. Cool. We can give them antibiotics and painkillers. There's always a way to get someone off pain. It's just, will they end up keeping this tooth, and what it will cost you to keep that tooth?
Gotcha.
That's the question.
4 p.m., Alex has a consultation appointment with a man who hasn't been to the dentist in 20, almost 30 years.
So when someone comes in and they have a lot of issues, right? They've been neglecting their teeth for many, many years. Life gets in the way, right?
A lot of people like that?
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, maybe you wouldn't be. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
think I'm one of those people. Well, it's been like a year.
That's
Is that
we're
not a
talking
lot?
about 20 to 30 years of never seeing a dentist, never going to having a fear of dentist.
The fear is real.
The fear is so real. And 20, 30 years of putting it off, maybe going and getting a tooth out. And then maybe having some kind of dentistry to patch something and get them out of pain. And then another 15 years goes by. Life gets in the way, right?
Definitely.
No one wants to go to, so all of a sudden you see these patients who are in their 50s or in their 60s, and now it just caught up to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's time to deal with it, right? You can't enjoy a meal, painful, can't eat steak, embarrassed to smile in a photograph, and sometimes they sit there and they start crying, right? Because it's been a lifetime thing and now it's time to deal with it. So this particular and it's not easy to discuss what the needs are and what so you have to see what is their chief complaint, right? Is it the fact that they don't like the way that they look in photographs, or is it a painful tooth, or is it just the inability to chew?
Or a combo of all of those.
Or a combo.
Yeah.
And do you want to fix one thing? Do you want to fix everything? So sometimes it takes many, many visits to come up with a plan. It's just a construction or
Definitely.
anything like that. You can fix one room, you can do a paint job, or you can knock the whole house down. And, so you have to
Gotcha.
see what it is that the patient needs and wants and how I can do that for them with many things in mind, like budget, like how many appointments, how many visits, how much time is it going to take? So it's a lot of, back and forth. And this 4:00 patient was one of them. This is like 20, 30 years of neglect. He's an older guy. He's in his late 60s. And now he has to do something, right? Because he still has 20, 30 years left.
Yeah.
Right? And
He's got to eat.
He's got to eat. He's got to enjoy him,
So it seems to me that you are using the psychology degree or major a little bit, right?
There you go.
Maybe a
It's
little
coming
bit.
in a little bit.
A little bit. But honestly, it just comes down to listening to someone,
Yeah.
right? And seeing where they're coming from and what I can do to help.
So you're putting a presentation together, you said,
Yes.
right? What is that presentation? Is it like slideshows? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I do when it comes to these big cases that are very complicated, because you can restore certain teeth with various procedures, right? Some of them could be more expensive or less expensive than others. So what I do is my initial exam is we take photographs of all the teeth, right? We photograph from various angles, both portrait shots, up close smiles, and inside the mouth as well, using mirrors and retractors. Then we also take study models where I take a copy of your teeth. Our manager Corey looks into insurance and benefits and cost options and maybe using financing, et cetera, because some of these cases could be very expensive. Right?
Definitely.
And then I take my time and I sit and I come up with various different plans when the patient is at home, when they're away, and I look at both the study models and the pictures, and I come up with a keynote of different possibilities and almost use that digital design to show them what it could look like and how I could get there.
Gotcha.
So it's almost like an architect can show a final outcome before they build the building.
Definitely.
This is my way of doing that.
Makes sense. Perfect.
So I do it through Keynote.
Okay, cool. What? So Keynote is
It's a
presentation
Mac
Okay.
PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I'm not a Mac person.
I have a
so-
Mac, and I didn't even know that. Wow.
At 5 p.m., Alex meets with yet another patient to replace 2 fillings of hers, but not without the fun stuff.
Yep, replacing silver fillings. Incredibly anxious. We gave her Xanax about an hour before. It a lot of the times takes off the edge.
Definitely.
Plus nitrous, and she likes Alanis Morissette, so we put the...
Who doesn't?
I know, right? Isn't it ironic? Right? So we put like her MTV Unplugged album on, you know,
Oh, cool.
and so she was high on nitrous and Xanax, and it went by very
Amazing.
quickly. So a lot of the times, you know, it's the experience of going to the dentist. Right?
So is that your normal procedure for calming people down? Do you see a lot of nervous people in there?
Well, right at the initial interview consultation, someone that's very anxious is going to tell you, "Look, I don't want to be here. I had awful experience as a kid, and that, you know, makes me want to help them by, you know, being able to create the type of experience where they will want to come back." And I could basically sort of tell them, you know what, that experience was your old experience.
Gotcha, yeah. This is the future.
This is different.
We're
now.
looking out.
We've got Alanis Morissette. You know?
We're rocking out.
Yeah.
So she seemed to be very like compliant and was like down with, you know, what you were prescribing her and like making her comfortable and stuff. Has there
Yeah.
ever been a time where you've had like a super hostile patient, like when you're doing treatments and stuff like that? And how did you deal with that?
You know, residency, I saw some hostility. You do your best. You know, you speak to them. I treated a patient at a prison in undergrad, and this guy was a lifer. This is like a rotation, and that was incredibly hostile.
Wow.
This guy was shackled. And he came in and he said, "If you stick me with that needle, I'll kill," like all this stuff.
Crazy
So I started talking to him, and I'm like, "Where are you from?" It turns out he was from Greenpoint, right?
Okay.
He's from
wow.
right, and this is in Boston. And I'm like, and at the time I was going back and forth, so I knew the area, and I started, where? He's like, "Oh, I grew up near the Boarhead Factor." So all of a sudden, I connected
Wow.
him. He let me take out the tooth. You know, it was really fun.
That's so cool.
But you manage, you talk to them, you see what's going on, and at the end of the day, if they don't want to be helped, what am I going to do?
Exactly.
Right? Most of the hostility typically comes from the insurance end. They're hostile because they got an unexpected bill, or because the insurance didn't cover something, or because we quoted a certain price that the insurance was going to pay and it ended up being something different. So that's where 99% of the hostility comes from.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
I've been in that situation
Yeah.
before where it just hits you and you're like, what? They told me it was going to be $2,000. Now
Right.
it's $4,000. What's
Right.
going on?
So
But,
this
yeah.
is the big challenge. This is more of a bigger challenge than dentistry.
Gotcha.
It's
Wow,
the insurance
yeah.
and the financial
Well,
world.
would you agree? I don't know if you have any say on this, but like third-party payers, I mean, that jacks up the prices for anything.
Especially if you miss a payment.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's how they get, you know, in my office. So to do that, to be able to help a lot of people who can't afford dentistry or isn't in their budget at that point, I created a finance-free payment plans. So even if it's 2 years, I want to make you able to afford dentistry.
Awesome.
So like the patient that broke her tooth, the rock climber, I mean, she works at the local gym. She teaches rock climbing, you know, an implant crown and an implant, it's like $5,000, right? We spread her payments over 3 years, I think.
Okay.
Right? So she's coming up with like a few $100 a month. It's an extra cell phone bill. And I think most people could do that in New York City.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yep.
So yeah, I got rid of the third party.
It's nice that there's dentists like Alex that are willing to work with you, even if your insurance company won't. We're going to get into why money and insurance is a huge problem in the dental world in the advice episode on Friday, so stay tuned for that. Alex's next patient had a clicking jaw that got stuck.
that's not necessarily teeth, though, then, right?
But it's in my
But it
world,
is in
right?
your world,
Who are you
okay.
going to go if your jaw is stuck?
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
You calling your dentist,
and
right?
you don't think of that, right? I mean,
It's connected,
Yeah.
right? It's still my realm. The jaw joint, the muscles, the teeth, that's still me. Her jaw got stuck. And there's various exercises that I can do with them, like right there at the chair to get it unstuck. And we did. I wanted to figure out not only how to help her, but why did that happen, right? That the goal is to answer why does your jaw hurt all the time?
Yep.
And how do we make sure that it doesn't happen again?
After treating the last patient for the day, Alex usually stays after everyone else leaves at 6 to go over inventory, pay bills, review cases, and answer emails. On this particular day, though, he was out by 7, but sometimes he's there until like 9, 10 o'clock. Today, Alex is home by 7:30, and work is always a topic of discussion at home with his wife, who's also a dentist, coincidentally. Oh my God! That was amazing. I didn't even mean to do that. She's actually in her orthodontic residency, so they got plenty to talk about. They love to bounce ideas off each other and problem solve. I can't believe I said coincidentally.
Next up in the Not-acci-Dental series is the Experience episode, where we'll go through Dr. Alex's journey through dental school and opening up his own practice.
You can get to know us and our guests more by keeping up with us on social. Join our community on Instagram and LinkedIn at Experience-a-Diddle. That's Experience A-D-I-T-L. There we share our guests' rapid rounds, life hacks, and advice to you, along with pictures and videos from our Manhattan studio, Gotham Podcast Studio. Thanks for listening. To find the show notes with all relevant links and photos for this series, head over to experienceadiddle.com. That's experienceaditl.com.
If you learned something in this episode, please take some time to help our mission by leaving a positive rating and review of the show. Each week, we bring you a new interview series with guests from different jobs and industries. In every series, we live a specific day in the life, hour by hour, experience the career journey, and have a discussion about what we learned. So, don't forget to subscribe.